ass in the ground. Left that nigga red as fuck and spread them ashes in town. When we catch him, we gon' pack him up and pass him around. Shoot for the head, you know niggas never miss the line. Might go see that nigga mama, heard she back with a clown. Actions allowed, word is my bitch is coated in Sableyes. Frozen like a snoring, them niggas know not to play with fire. That means in other words not to play with I. Boy, we got them cannons like Genesect when we take a drive. I'm on my favorite time. I've been staying on my D-All, but we are not gonna respawn. The disrespect with words is gonna be curtains just to be on. It's laser send a nigga into space just like your D-Oxes, bitch.
Yeah, Team Rainbow Rock and I bring the fleet. You go for gold, I red dot, you to say the least. Mo host and I'm cold and toxic, I bossed it, became elite. Colossal, I came with heat, flow water, I gained esteem. Stone frosty, then glaily peep, them shits dropping they jaws. Terrestrial electric, spark it and problems get solved. Pick for the spring of that action, dropped if he dropping the ball. Glowed up like agronite, stay with steel, but stop rocking with y'all. Iron with frauds and visage, murking them, burn it, tucking, I'm gutsy, fucking flame or I'm clutching. Fuego snuffing, my ironworks, I can't go bluffing. Fake foes frontin' for flinching when that Draco rushing. Ain't no wonder we find you catch a halo bugging. My brother, I need to boast. They dusted but think they dope. Try mimic you but get busted. Them puppets is really broke. Self gunner, I sneak a scope on you suckers who seeing ghosts. Told them run it, they flee the smoke, bitch I run it. Who keeping skull, motherfucker?
Buy your flash out, put your mag down. Ship gear, you up in the bad town. Mills tanks, boy, you barely cash cow. Only H&M when the bag out. Now my mom and dad proud. Not a thing no more about the circumstance. It was all fighting in the background. Bad route, I was penny up on the computer. Changed name, I was running the loot up. On the web, had the heavy duty boot up. Overseas joints trying them a suit us. For any more kind, Freddy Dark Ride K right next to the Ruger. If the 6 down, then it's big round. You better hold of that hooper. You better pray that they not out for bread, not out for Gouda. Team full of Ubers, civilly run your drip. You ain't seen no Barracuda doing too much. I'm not Mr. Rhyme because my looty cooler. No, I won't zap those, but the dudes seduce ya. If it's red protocol, then it's boop, boop, boop. Man, the buzz spin above, take you to the future. Homies in the lab, cosplaying hoop, hoop. We don't clear smog, I'm in my zone when I light the fuchsia.
Yippee! He so cool, Jarky Bacon says. Oh my god, the last stream made Bacon come to Twitch. This is crazy. Uh-oh, if Bacon's expecting some, podcast updates.
A snake cannot eat a dragon.
Very on today from CeeLo Pill resubscribing for the 22nd month, because that is a Cowboy Bebop little thingy. And that's what we'll be discussing here today. Bacon, we will be watching the Trixie video today, so that's like the thingy. Happy Switch 2 reveal day. True, Tim Geddes was saying this like a week ago. That'd be next Thursday, and he was right. All it's going to be is like a 2-minute ad or whatever, like the first Switch one, I think. That's what the people are saying. Also, I can't even tell anymore. The Pokemon Leaks person keeps posting pictures of the Switch 2. I assume they're real because he's right about Pokemon all the time. Took me a minute to realize they were right about Pokemon. You just got to figure it out, CeeLo Pill. You know, you got to keep your ears to the ground here. What if they show a new Mario? Well, the great Tim Geddes told me that's basically 1,000,000% confirmed, of course.
Well,
he
hello
reckons
everyone,
it's going to be a
and
Mario
welcome
and...
to this amazing
Shut up,
discussion.
Belita, you're an annoying idiot. Actually, the comments are going to say that I'm an annoying idiot here. The, what was I saying? Oh, Tim Geddes, he reckons 1,000,000% it's going to be a Mario/Donkey Kong game where they'll both be playable because it'll tie into the movie. And I believe him. He's a genius. When has he ever gone wrong? When has he ever gone afoul? But also, that's like a later game, and only Mario Kart's going to be out on launch, is also what he said. So that's just crazy on God. And everybody else was like, Animal Crossing's going to be a launch title. But then Tim said, that's stupid. There's no way. So, I don't know. I went shopping today. I got like some money that I can spend on games and stuff, and I ended up buying 2 books anyway. I just bought 2 of the Cormac McCarthy books. I was looking at Astrobot, and I was like, And then I did look at a silly, Animal Crossing for a little bit. I was like, Then I was like, I got that 3DS game I could play. Heath here has abandoned the 80s OVAs. He says, enough with that shit. and has now moved on to manga here. Chapter 10, Integrity. Does this one only have 10 chapters? That's put it on the list. And this one has a cool looking boat. So what do you think this is? Also, I have officially torrented all the great episodes or movies or whatever of Karanoki Okai. We're very excited. I probably will watch the first one after this. I was going to do it instead, but whatever. I've also got it. There's this. Now, chat, you're not going to care about this, but this. There's a footy ENT video that's like should have been done like yesterday and has like maybe like 3 hours left to work on it, and I just have to do it, and I'm procrastinating it. And then hopefully I can get the Pokemon Battles video out before the fucking end, before I have to leave for Elite RE, which is not that far away and is probably not so likely. What is this? Is this a light novel? We hate light novels here. Is a manga series by this guy based on a something novel. Oh my goodness, Heath, did you read the original novel? Or are you a hack fraud? How many volumes? 4. Not that impressive. Heath only read it. Was it good, Heath? How did we feel about it? Now also, oh my god, look at this great Pokemon artwork with the Dragapult and its 2 little dragon things here. I wonder if this is also a reference to thing. I don't think this is just Cynthia here. It might be something else, but anyway, it looks really cool. I looked at it and I was like, oh my god, she's got a dress like Dragapult. And then I realized it was a Dragapult thingy. We made a Cowboy Bebop video. We announced a stream. We have the Cowboy Bebop there. I think I already went over all these. Get the fuck out of here. Elite RE's audience is so mean to me. Why do these 2 guys have weird accents? Hey, that one's mean to Elite RE. Gosh, it's so painful to listen to. It's very grating. We gotta downvote that one. Jesus Christ. Can you believe it? Elite RE should ban those people. Elite RE wants us to react to Whiplash, chat. What a terrible idea, right? What a shitty movie. Nobody cares about the drums. Make sure you all tell him so we can pressure him out of doing it. Anyway. Do it, Kyle. I want the footy ENT. Don't worry, Jockey Bacon. Every consideration in the process of this video, at some points I was like, everybody that would click on this video would like, this is probably a little redundant to them, but I'm like, no! Jockey Bacon needs the context. So this is basically, back in the day, these are like the Patreon exclusive videos that were just for Bacon. Also, I've got to become a Jockey Bacon Patreon member. And by Patreon member, I mean YouTube member. I just keep forgetting. It's like $2 or something. £2! What's that supposed to mean? When I was at that bookstore today, some of the things on the back, like the barcode for me to figure out what the price was, it said £12 or 27 Canadian dollars. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? How, somebody tell me how much I'm going to pay for this fucking shit. But anyway. Happy Switch 2 Day, new Mario. Launching with Mario Kart 9 3D Mario. I know, that's actually smart. I don't know what was smart. Heath is here. I'm just watching a long OVA right now. Crazy. Bacon encouraging me. Kyle on the download. What site do you use to download movies? I don't really download movies because movies are easy to stream usually, and I'm already subscribed to all these shitty streaming services. And if that fails, then I will just look on Mr. R's Plex server, which I have access to, and he has all the movies, at least all the Poppy movies. Other than that, like the last movie I watched that was Barry Lyndon, where I probably should have found a torrent for it because a lot of that movie is how good it looks, and I was just streaming it in like 1080p or whatever it's called. And it didn't look the best. So anyway, you'll get 3 videos out in a week like you always do. Don't worry, I will. Just look on the r/piracy Megathread Heath or OC load. Yes, I do that sometimes. Oh, good thinking. And now we've got a AJ Justice or something. Is this like the famous wrestler? Hey, I was like, I gotta go to the Elite RE Discord server to find this video. No, we're on the great twitch.com where you can leave links. I don't like this bit. I don't understand this bit. This is something. They're making a video. Oh, is this a music video? Oh my god, it's with like an actual band, I guess. Only 25k views. They fell off. Anyway. Why was Sabrina so popular? What a great question. There are a lot of other things. I saw this Arcada video. I wonder what he has to say about Cowboy Bebop live action. And then he did a retrospective here, and it's 2 hours long. Do you think Arcada videos are good? They could be. I kind of want to find out. This is kind of the one I want to watch first, because Trixie's just been uploading like these still shot images with sort of edited stuff here. And I listened to like the first 30 seconds, and it seems vaguely interesting. Cowboy Bebop, the bad IP, because it's not iterative or something. We'll see. I'm not committing to watching any of these videos in full, though I probably will watch this one in full. Outside of that, there's not really much of a plan. I think I also want to do a sort of, I don't know if it'll be a secondary ENT video, or if it'll be a, or if we'll stream it and then make it a secondary ENT video, but, do want to watch a bunch of, like, really, really old video essays that I watched a long time ago, and just to check back in them. Like, can I even find this? This is like an old game reviewer I used to watch. Yes, of these Crash videos. And because I just played Wrath of Cortex. At the end, he did like a big re-review of Wrath of Cortex. It's like 50 minutes long. This is like one of the first like video essays I think I ever saw. That wasn't like Geekvolution. I'm almost certain this video is like bad. Also, this is like a re-uploads channel. This guy deleted his channel a long time ago. If anyone recognizes it, it would be big. But like that, I think watching a lot of older YouTube right now is interesting to me. So I think I'll see what we do about that. Other than that, I did read more of my Cool Heart of Darkness book. What did I even write down as a note here? How much stuff I'm missing, intertextual stuff. These old books love to jerk off, even older books, chat. They love to be intertextual like that, where they're referencing a thingy, and it's supposed to imply the same sort of feeling, and I know it's happening, and I can't figure out what it is, because I haven't read The Odyssey or whatever the fuck to be able to get it. And then if you look up The Odyssey, you think it's like a 12-page thing. All that shit's like 500 pages. What the fuck are they doing for 500 pages? Battling Troy or some shit? I don't give a fuck. I think a fear of books... this is sort of a point about how... When you think of, like, reading in a negative sense, you kind of think of... It's kind of the George R. R. Martin meme of, like, and 2.5 pages of this last book we're ever gonna get was dedicated to describing the food at Wyman Manley's table. What a fucking boring book. But I've always, like, oh, we're gonna read a book and we're gonna describe the sunset here. And it's like... And I'm just realizing that it's, like, obviously a very stupid, like, fear to have. It's obviously tone setting and or, like, a metaphor thing. And, like, especially with Heart of Darkness, like, every paragraph you can, like, read into in a bunch of, like, interesting ways. And obviously that's the same. So I've made peace with that. I'm 36... No, I'm probably, like, 40-something% of the way through Jak and Daxter. I will be 100%ing Jak and Daxter, I'm almost certain. Because what a great video game. I have to play Mario 64 properly, and I think I have to play Banjo and Kazooie. Banjo and Kazooie? I gotta play Banjo properly, I think. And I didn't realize Banjo was just on the Switch thingy, so. Now, everybody, Miller the Killer, where are you? Remember when the Nintendo 64 Switch thing came out and everybody complained that they were, like, bad? Like, and that's not how you should play Ocarina of Time. It's got 3 seconds of delay input or something. Or Mario 64 was the same thing. Is this true, or is this a fine way to play it? Tell me. How does it only have 25k views? That's what I was saying, Jockey Bacon. Now we've got another one. Joseph Dandelion. What does that mean? Hideki... I did see this. Did I see this because of Miller? This is very interesting. This is like... Everybody praising, like, oh, how... I mean, because there's like a big... There's like... Obviously, there's a million different segments of the anime fandom. But there's like a specific section of the anime fandom that only likes Miyazaki movies. And it's basically because they're not anime-y in like the trope sense of like whatever you think of when you think of anime-y. And one of the biggest things you think of when you think of anime-y is titties and shit bouncing. And they're like, oh, I love the great Miyazaki. He would never put titties bouncing in his movies. He's not a loser freak like that. And this is just like, I think it's Anno talking about how much Miyazaki loves Nadia's... Yeah, it's Nadia. No, Nadia is the other one. Noska's boobs here. And she's like, obviously a teenage girl and stuff like that. So, you know, kill him, get rid of him. And that's just a funny thing. But I did already watch this. I don't know why I saw it, but I did. But that's a very funny, like, comeback. It's, like, great. Because, of course, these idiots don't know what they're talking about. And, of course, he's just a horny little boy. What do you think? What are you thinking? Anyways, I don't know fucking thing. I was rewatching Attack on Titan and reread today. Remember that? Yeah, we'll do it at some point. We said 2025 was the year. Oh my god, bye. Nintendo dropped it now. Oh my god, we're gonna live react? It was supposed to... It is still Thursday. Oh my god, it is here. This is big, chat. This is big. Update from Nintendo. I haven't seen anything yet. Live reaction. Go back in the VOD. Let's go theater mode. Is it going to be called the Switch 2? Is Mario going to be... Don't look at Miller. He's going to be back when it happens. How long ago was it? 22 minutes? 10 minutes ago. Description, I don't want to read the comments. Why isn't there audio? Oh, what's the sound going to be like? That's a Switch. I have that. I have that. We're gonna cut this out and put this on YouTube and get 1 million views. I wish I had a face cam right now. Remember last time this happened, I was watching it with Etika. Oh, they made the Switch sound. So they're gonna do the different sound. It's gonna be magnetic, right? Never again will we hear that sound. Oh, it's bigger, chat. We knew that. Oh my god, it's like haptics or whatever. Oh my god, the volume and stuff is on the side. This is crazy. That means something, I don't know. Oh, you got a stand thing? Remember how mine broke off? Because my brother's an idiot? Hey, I'm watching here. And look, the sides, it's gonna click in. Oh, you can fold it back even further. This is revolutionary. Bigger. Put a color on it. Oh, we're putting them around there. Oh my god, there's buttons and stuff. Oh, you push that in, I'm guessing. We're gyrating. Remember, on the Wii, you have to attach the little string or you're going to hit yourself in the head or throw it at your television. Doesn't look like there's going to be any games in this. See? It looks kind of Wii U-y, huh? Like the thingy. Oh, there's two. I wish it was a weirder name. Oh my god, Mario Kart. Is it just gonna be Mario Kart? Hold on, that TV could change. $2025. Not even 3D Mario. Oh no, it's just Mario Wonder. And play Nintendo Switch exclusive games as well as backwards compatibility. Chat, aren't we glad Xbox did this for us? But can I play my Nintendo 64 cartridges on it? Oh, we got the Direct. Now, are we doing this in American? Is this April the 2nd or the 4th of February? Probably February, right? That Pokemon Direct's supposed to be happening in February. Series of hand-on events held around the world. I'll be there. Just shitty Mario Kart. Who cares? Oh my god. Now what that's missing is the money. True, there was no price reveal. That'll be at the other thing. They really just called it Switch 2 instead of new Nintendo Switch. Character development, ladies and gentlemen. True Nintendo. Why didn't we call it the Swatch or something? Oh, the kind of funny guys, I heard him saying that what if they did Switch and just spelt it with 2 I's? I was like, oh, that's a Nintendo thing to do if ever I've seen one. What a great thing. Okay, let's scroll back up, see what Miller the Killer has to say, so we can end this little clip out YouTube video we're going to make here. Oh, when I get inside, everybody remind me so I can upload it super quickly. The new Switch doesn't even slide on anymore. What is this? Oh, Silopil doesn't like the magnets. Oops, spoilers. Well, I didn't see it. Best day of my life. No shot the mouse thing was real. What's the mouse thing? Oh, oh, was that the little thing they zoomed in on? Like you could plug in your mouse? I guess that makes sense. Where are we up to? Where are we up to? You can... Oh, wasn't there a big rumor about like a C button or something? Did I miss the C button? Because it doesn't... I saw a C button. So I don't know. You can stand the stack back on. You can stick the stand back on. You can, but it's like snapped off. Alright? Pill, don't worry. I know these things. The Joy-Cons can become a mouse. Splatoon with a mouse. I can't believe it. Oh. Who cares about that? Oh, never mind. It does make the noise. Oi, nice round dock. Oh, was the dock round? I didn't even notice. The way they changed the title from an update from Nintendo to this after 10 minutes. Those silly little guys. Oh my god, true. As to not spoil the name. I did appreciate that. PlayStation is so dead, Lamau, it's over. The great PlayStation is not fazed by this shitty kid's toy. The Nintendo Click Genius. Oh, as a name, that would be great. Still no word on C button. Well, it would be here, right? Unless, what if there's like a secret button reveal? Remember when they did the Smash Brothers thing and they would just reveal them in like the big picture? What if there's like a little reveal here where the button's over here? That would be pretty funny. You can tell they just whipped this up quickly because of the leaks, lol. It shows everything that was leaked. Well, how much else can you show when you're not showing the video games? But who knows? Maybe that's true. Anyway, I don't really have anything to say about this. I'm probably not going to get this until a Pokemon game comes out on it. Or, I don't know, what else could be interesting enough? I haven't even played Mario Odyssey. Why do I care about Odyssey 2? There really is, like, no other Nintendo franchise that would make me buy this thing, right? If it was $100... Oh my god, IGN's already there. Are they covering it? Oh my goodness. Why isn't Kinda Funny live? What are they doing? Letting all the views go to waste? Or are they live? This would be crazy. Nope. Embarrassing. Tim, wake up. But without further ado, I guess that's it for that video. Support links in the description below. We got Cowboy Bebop videos to watch. Crazy. Breath of the Wild 2. They already did that, CeeLo Pilled. Mario Kart looks so good. Look at Mario's face, so beautiful. It truly did look just so good. What games would you want, Kyle? Just Pokemon? Well, I don't know. Once you have it, you can get all those other games. But literally, I have a Switch and like 90% of the games are Pokemon. And I have Octopath Traveler that I played like 2 hours of one time. Is that literally it? That and just the online shit. Because that's what I care about, I guess. Is the old games. We hate new games. Well, what a great segment that was. Now, on to Cowboy Bebop, I guess, right? We were about to start before then. I wasn't doing any more of this shit, right? I was kind of talking about Jak and Daxter. When the great Jak and Daxter is on there. Oh, I heard in the week that Halo might be a launch title or something. The Master Chief Collection, because Xbox is trying to put it out on other things. So that would be cute. That would be funny. Well, bit of an awkward transition, huh, chat? Let's just let it play, and Trixie will take us on a journey.
My husband Bird was among the very last people still riding the jumped shark known as Overwatch 2, which went through
What a great way to start a Cowboy Bebop video. Shampoo and Dandy being spiritual successors to Bebop is so much better way to iterate on the formula rather than endless sequels. Is this just about how you shouldn't do sequels? I hope not.
a cross-promotional with Cowboy Bebop, of all things, that just about had me praying I
Oh. I did already listen to this part, but now I'm remembering. Is this just about marketing Cowboy Bebop?
would never see another new piece of Cowboy Bebop media created ever again. The best way I can
See, that sounds like she didn't like the live action. I'm heartbroken.
describe the problem with this cross-promotion is that every single time you opened up the menu, the iconic opening saxophone players of Tank would shoot out of the speakers. Every time you return to the menu. All right. We're going to have to go through it. Intellectual property is a weird concept in general, but it refers essentially to the ownership of an idea. A fictional character only really exists in our collective imagination.
Now, you know, this is a Trixie video, so is anything she's going to say right now true? Or is it just sort of her understanding of it? We'll never know.
And as a series of actual static drawings on real paper if they're an animated character in our collective imagination, essentially to the ownership of an idea. A fictional character only really exists in our collective imagination and as a series of actual static drawings on real paper if they're an animated character. But the money that's made from selling goods connected to those characters, while also meaningful only in concept, is physically calculable. And so intellectual property law essentially decides who is and who is not allowed to profit financially from the sale of products directly tied to certain ideas. I know this sounds like an unmanageable mess from a legal standpoint, and it is. But I'm going to tackle Cowboy Bebop's failure not as an intellectual property in the legal sense, but in the cultural sense, by looking over many of the official product tie-ins that have just sucked over the decades. But also, more broadly, talking about why Cowboy Bebop couldn't be meaningfully iterated upon, even if it was handled by someone other than the people doing it right now. Simply put, this is about why the iconic television show Cowboy Bebop is so bad as an intellectual property in any context outside of the original show. You will rarely find a
What about the movie?
more appropriate time to use the phrase catching lightning in a bottle than when describing the creation of Cowboy Bebop. Let's start with Studio Sunrise being already one of the oldest,
Oh, we love anime history here.
enduring animation studios in Japan in the 90s. They'd been around for 20 years, they were fresh off of a huge buyout from Bandai, a ton of shakeup was going on in the ranks and expectations of what the studio would be creating. In their midst, one of the hungry young talents was already making a name for himself by helping to modernize Sunrise's mainstay Mobile Suit Gundam series with his work on the Stardust Memories OVA. And then he made a bold artistic statement when he took
I assume we're talking about Watanabe here. I literally have no idea what he was doing pre-Cowboy Bebop. Obviously, post-Cowboy Bebop, he's done a bunch of fucking shows. There's like the new one that's out. There's what he even did, like Terror No Resonance or whatever, right? And Space Dandy and Shampoo are obviously the big ones.
took the reins of the main competing mecha series, Macross, across 4 classic OVA, and helping to modernize Sunrise's mainstay Mobile Suit Gundam series with his work on the Stardust Memories OVA. And then he made a bold artistic statement when he took the reins of the main competing mecha series, Macross, across 4 classic OVA episodes with Macross Plus. Kind of like the anime equivalent of when James Gunn did such a good job on Guardians of the Galaxy that DC hired him to rebuild their whole cinematic universe. With a ton of the talented staff members at Sunrise coming off of the heels of the tremendously imaginative, although unsatisfyingly truncated, somewhat of a hit series division of Escaflowne.
Aye, that's what I thought. We were going to bring up Escaflowne.
Tremendously imaginative, although unsatisfyingly truncated, somewhat of a hit series division of Escaflowne.
What does truncated mean? Like all squashed in? I think, right? I don't know. I'll watch it this year, hopefully.
The studio put the most inventive original creators under the command of Shinichiro Watanabe's personal vision, with the mandate that whatever he made needed to prominently feature machines which could be made into model kits, much like what Bandai was succeeding in selling tons of with Gundam, the reason that they bought Sunrise. If anything should tell you just how far Cowboy Bebop shot past the expectations of its producers, it's just how little presence the actual machines have maintained in the marketing of Bebop as an IP over the last 25 years. Despite the fact that nearly every episode of the show had an aerial dogfight, usually involving Spike's awesome personal fighter, the Swordfish 2, and even though the show is named after the converted fishing vessel in which it mostly takes place, you won't really find models of these ships with nearly the same ease that
Is the Bebop a converted shipping vessel? Or fishing vessel? It is in the water in that one episode. The Elm episode. That's fun.
you would find
That might
models
be
from
true.
other sci-fi shows, nor with the ease with which you'll find toys and posters and fans of the main characters of Cowboy Bebop, especially Spike Spiegel and Faye Valentine, who qualify as easily 2 of the all-time most iconic animated characters. So why aren't the characters better at carrying the franchise forward? Spike is such a cool dude with his Bruce Lee-based philosophy of movement, aloof demeanor, endless skills,
But Spike's lame.
and a sensitive heart that can't stop looking at the past. It's no wonder why so many people see themselves in him and look to him as a role model for coolness. Why is it so hard to do more with his character? Well, starting with the obvious and one of the best-known spoilers in anime, Dyke
He's
fucking spies
dead.
at the end of the show. There were enough people who didn't want to
Did he
believe
just say Dyke fucking spies at
that
the
Spike
end?
was actors in anime. Dyke fucking spies at the end of the
I heard it.
show. There were enough people who didn't want to believe that Spike was actually dead, despite the very definitive presentation, that Watanabe-sensei had to come out and say that he was dead. Considering the presentation of character backstories in the show, it would take the wind out of them to elaborate on the story with a prequel, and killing off the iconic main character really leaves no room for a sequel. Theoretically, Watanabe could have reneged on the canonicity of Spike's death and started up another season of his successful show if he wanted to, but it's hard to imagine that it could have been anywhere near as good as the first one, what with the characters all having completed their emotional arcs and moved on or literally died by the end. You could conceivably tell another story in the same universe or something, maybe using a grown-up Ed as the main character, but without Spike's personality, it just wouldn't be the same thing as Cowboy Bebop. Although at this point it would almost certainly be more interesting than what we've gotten instead. I can't blame any of the creative people that made Cowboy Bebop possible for
In the 90s, are we really making sequel series to things? Like, Evangelion didn't get Evangelion 2 or something. Now, that also has a rather definitive ending. But, like, even Escaflowne, there's no Escaflowne 2. Like, something like Gundam iterates on itself constantly. Are sequels relatively a newer concept? Do we even get... I guess sequels aren't really a thing in anime, right? There's just, like, long-running stories. Like, I guess Boruto is a sequel to Naruto. But why is that, like, the only one I can think of? I guess also if you just did a Season 2 later, it's not like it would be called Cowboy Bebop 2. It would be called Cowboy Bebop Season 2. And that's obviously more common. Anyway. Isn't Carol and Tuesday a Bebop sequel? I don't know. Is there some like hidden, it's in the same universe thing? I don't know. If it's actually related to Bebop, it would probs be a prequel. Carol and Tuesday, that is. All I know is
we're moving on
Curry was in that.
From the franchise, because the success that they had with that show immediately inspired a bulk of them to form Studio Move Point. It would almost certainly be more interesting than what we've gotten instead. I can't blame any of the creative people that made Cowboy Bebop possible for moving on from the franchise, because the success that they had with that show immediately inspired a bulk of them to form Studio Bones, whose entire legacy essentially descends from the success of Cowboy Bebop. In the purest spiritual sense, Wolf's Reign.
Ugh, I'm drinking. I think I knew that. Because Bones is like Full Metal Alchemist, right? That's like one of their first hits, and that's right after this.
Which
they did do the original and Brotherhood, right? I think
came from Cowboy Bebop's literally descends from the success of Cowboy Bebop. In the purest spiritual sense, Wolf's Reign, which came from Cowboy Bebop's lead writer and shared its character designer and composer, as well as Samurai Champloo from Studio Manglobe, for which Shinichiro Watanabe brought together a different whole talent pool and followed a similar ethos to what he did on Bebop. Those are the true successors of Cowboy Bebop's legacy, from which later down the line we got the ultimate collision of talents onto Space Dandy. Without Bebop, a significant number of recognizable names in the anime industry probably wouldn't be recognizable. But Bebop itself is still owned by Bandai, and while they smartly have realized, unlike the people that own Fooly Cooly, that creating more anime with other staff members will just tarnish
she really didn't like the Fooly Cooly sequels, both of them.
The legacy of the original show and drive longtime fans away, they haven't yet figured out what they can do to keep milking money out of the IP after everyone already owns the series on Blu-ray. Cowboy Bebop was always one of the most successful TV anime in the realm of home video sales worldwide. Its reputation goes way beyond the typical fans of anime, and even many of those anime fans, like me, were created by Cartoon Network's Adult Swim division, starting their anime block in the name of running Cowboy Bebop. Considering the scale of the show's influence, and most especially of Yoko Kanno's iconic soundtrack, and also just the technical quality of the animation, the script, and the storyboard, I think it's hard to debate against Bebop's status as one of the greatest TV shows ever created. But I also think that trying to turn that show into a broad intellectual property is like trying to do the same thing for The Wire. And I'm sure we're all thankful
Oh my god, Jockey Bacon loves this video.
Never did, but intellectual property is like trying to do the same thing for The Wire. And I'm sure we're all thankful HBO never did that, considering how quickly Game of Thrones went to shit when they did. These stories all have the same problem of being fundamentally dark, depressing, real.
Isn't House of the Dragon very successful? What does that mean? Oh, I had a better example. Of what they're trying to, of something that's being forced. I guess Lord of the Rings is like the example of like, you're just doing more to make more money. Everybody wants to make all the IP they own into universes that they can milk forever, etc.
Is like trying to do the same thing for The Wire. And I'm sure we're all thankful HBO never did that, considering how quickly Game of Thrones went to shit when they did. These stories all have the same problem of being fundamentally dark, depressing, realistic stories about hard-to-like, sometimes downright hateable people, whose stories all come to definitive ends within the original text. Bebop isn't as intense as an HBO drama in that most of its main characters survive and are at least usually fun to watch and fight against people who are more on the wrong side of the law and
The Wire isn't a HBO show, right? Is it? H. Hey, I'm trying to click here. Hey, I'm trying to type here. I think it might be, actually. Yeah, okay, it is. The, Cowboy Bebop probably kills off the same percentage of, like, its main characters, as in 25%. At the end, like, Boardwalk Empire and The Sopranos do kill a lot of characters in, like, the second last episode. I'm trying to think, I guess that's true for Boardwalk Empire, because there's, like, one beforehand, and then, obviously, there's the one at the end. Though The Sopranos is, like, ambiguous about whether or not they die. And I'm not even talking about Tony. I'm talking about, like, Silvio. Silvio Pilt's watching The Sopranos, huh? Probably shouldn't have said that. So I don't know, maybe The Wire kills a bunch of people at the end? I'm not sure.
Survive and are at least usually fun to watch and fight against people who are more on the wrong side of the law and who generally seem worse than they are. But it's still a show about a lazy, broke-ass former gang hitman turned bounty hunter who hates women, children, and pets, traveling with an ex-cop who's just struggling to manage his anger long enough to keep the lights on, and a trampy, obnoxious criminal con woman who gets people killed when she owes them too much money if she can. Also, Ed is Ed. I love Ed, so I don't know how to argue against her. On top
I don't know, because even in all those shows, when, like, they are more of bad people in the Bebop cast, I would almost certainly say they're still, like, really likable. There is, like, this dance of, like, trying to be cool by saying that characters are unlikable because they're immoral, when really those two things don't really have anything to do with each other.
of all that, its universe is on its way to entropy without a real sign of future growth. Its characters always end up broke losers on balance. It gets moody and serious as often as it gets fun and dangerous, and again, the main character fucking dies. If Spike had never died, however, I don't think he would have become nearly as iconic as he has managed to be over the years. If we had a lot more Cowboy Bebop, it would have become a rote space comedy that slowly sapped the appeal from the sad sack character. Spike works because he's doomed, trapped in the past and fated to stay there, a dissociated loner longing for escape yet compelled to continue by sheer instinct until it leads him to a fitting end. He's basically defined by the fact that he gets to die, and if you take that away and turn him into a sitcom character, eventually he would have gotten swallowed up by the similarities in his steez to other mega franchise leads like the one who inspired his outfit, Lupin III. Unlike Bebop, Lupin III is a perfect intellectual property, built from the ground up as an episodic serial, playing on spy movie and heist tropes to create an endlessly loopable formula, easily made modern with new updates again and again. I could write a whole other video about why the format of Lupin works so well, but I'd rather recommend that you watch Breadsword's fantastic video about the Castle of Cagliostro, which doubles as a love letter to the whole franchise. It's like an hour and a half long.
What about the Shaves video, the greatest YouTube video of all time? It's not really even about Lupin the Third. That Alita refuses to watch. That seems to make sense. It does seem like Lupin is, like, less serious, and it's just like Lupin seems a lot like Pokemon in a sense, in the Pokemon anime, that is, where it's like you really could just, like, every movie could be its own continuity, and it's just like, oh, and here comes the Team Rocket subplot, which is what the cop seems to be in, like, Lupin, and here are, like, the 4 characters and their archetypes and how they would play into it and stuff like that. I do think that would be possible with Bebop. It would just have to be a different Spike every time, I guess. I think that would maybe even be more interesting, where it's like, oh, you have to, like, one of the beats is like, oh, yeah, we have to figure out how we're going to kill Spike at the end of the movie before we do the next one. That, I don't know, that could be kind of interesting. Obviously, tonally,
at the core,
it's like, well, they're very different, and the effectiveness of Cowboy Bebop generally is that there is one Spike. But actually, there's 2. Look at this guy over here, the great Netflix Cowboy Bebop. And this, like, Doom thing is something I talked about in my discussion, where it was like, the Netflix show very much has they'll just get through it every time thing, but, like, would have had to have killed. What probably would have happened is they probably just would have gone darker in season 2 or something and made it more obvious, which kind of, I don't know, that wouldn't be too interesting.
Or though, the thing that makes Lupin work forever is that Lupin is a fun, charismatic character on an endless quest to keep the good times rolling. Lupin could die and come back as many times as he wants because he's about as close to a loony.
I do think an interesting thing is that Spike really isn't that charismatic, I don't think. He is, like, cool in a sense. I don't know, I feel like most people disagree with me, because I feel like most people do really like Spike, whereas I like Faye and, like, Ed way more. Like, Spike is, like, kind of cool because he doesn't talk, right? It's like, he doesn't really, like, he's partly a mystery, like, the whole show. And then it's like, oh, is it for the girl at the end, is what Jet asks him. And it's, like, really, like, basic. And you're like, and it's obviously, the answer's yes. Well, basically yes. And the reveal that he's just sort of, like, an average guy is, like, the point. Which obviously would have been a problem for the Netflix show, because obviously they've got a longer runtime. What do you do with that? How do you play off of that? Like, especially before Faye shows up as, like, a main part of the cast in the original show, it is a lot of, like, vibing, especially in that first episode. Rather than filling it with, like, Spike characterization. So I don't know, it's kind of hard. And obviously the Netflix idea was just to make him be wacky and zany. It is so funny, like, original Spike is, like, angry all the time, so, like, in, like, a petty way, which this one really isn't. I don't know, it's interesting.
as you can get without completely breaking the somewhat grounded aesthetics of the show's universe. And everything that's cool about Lupin is pretty much exactly the same stuff that makes Spike cool, except for the crucial difference of personality that Spike Spiegel is a sad boy. Depressive, dissociative Lupin that's never seen a blue sky.
Kinda, right? Anyway, is anyone saying anything? I should probably fucking figure this out. Well, Ava was gonna be a sequel to Nadia, and that only isn't because of rights, but keeps a lot of elements. Was Miller the Killer scene Nadia? And also, maybe that was true at like the very beginning of production, but they're obviously very, very different. House of the Dragon is not successful, lol, hated by the fans and the creator. House of the Dragon is obviously massively successful. It's like the only thing keeping that HBO afloat, and like millions of people love it. Nobody gives a fuck if George R. R. Martin likes it, and the fans obviously really love it. Just make another movie between episodes. That is another possibility, obviously. That is what we've done, and we haven't mentioned the movie at all. Which is interesting.
Is never going to carry 100 adventures from generations of writers and directors. It's a novelty idea, and it worked so incredibly well.
I wasn't listening.
That Spike Spiegel is a sad boy. Depressive, dissociative Lupin that's never seen a blue sky is never going to carry 100 adventures from generations of writers and directors. It's a novelty idea, and it worked so incredibly well only because the people who came up with it were so incredibly talented at realizing something to its...
Thinking about it as a novelty idea is interesting. Novelty. As opposed to Lupin, which would be like a iterative idea, or like it's like the Pokemon thing. It's like ever expanding. You can do a million things with it. I don't know. Spike is like a novelty because he's sad. Kind of. It's a very particular type of sad aesthetic. Which I guess, like, I want to say is kind of tied to the aesthetic of the show, which is very, like, late 90s anime aesthetic. But Elite Ari's machine eventually will be able to make 90s anime. You know, we'll just AI one up.
Its effect. Shinichiro
I was trying to pause again. Maybe?
Watanabe would have grown up because the people who came up with it were so incredibly talented at realizing something to its effect. Shinichiro Watanabe would have grown up with Lupin III and Space Cobra, and combining these things with his own slant of the blues, that's his contribution to sci-fi in this way. Putting this in the hands of anyone else, it turns into a self-parody in a matter of nanoseconds. Let's look at the evidence. Right from the beginning, Cowboy Bebop was always intended as a multimedia property, and
it's gonna be epic. We're talking about the Netflix adaptation now.
It also failed in that respect immediately. There were two short tie-in manga, one of which started release shortly before the anime series, and the other which began release shortly after the anime series, and either of which feels off the second you lay your eyes on it. It doesn't help that the artwork is not particularly great for either of these to begin with, but also the whole character design sense is so wrong that when you compare it to the show, it feels like you couldn't draw these characters in another style without making them hard to recognize. Cowboy Bebop Shooting Star, the first manga, has the completely wrong tone, probably was created from only a vague idea of what the series was even supposed to be, given that it wasn't out yet, and the second manga, just called Cowboy Bebop, starts off feeling so much like Lupin III that it proves my point immediately about what would happen if you took all the sad jazz and bluesy color design out of the anime and turned it into a standard action comedy romp. Both of these manga were widely published in the early 2000s when Bebop was a big part of helping anime to explode worldwide, and manga was just starting to take off. My cousin bought the first volume of the second manga, I think, and I remember reading it with confusion at the time and being quite sure that I did not need to read another volume. I would be surprised by just how little anyone has ever really discussed these manga if they didn't suck just so very badly.
I know there is one YouTube video, I think, that was relatively popular about them at one point, about, like, why the manga doesn't work or something.
So onward from the show actually being over and done with, we've got Cowboy Bebop the movie, which is kind of contentious in its...
Oh my goodness, are we going to shit on the movie? Now, Trixie doesn't like that Madoka movie, and I don't think I've ever heard her talk about the movie, so it's possible we could be coming with the isn't good take here. This could be interesting.
Because
the people like it.
From the show actually being over and done with, we've got Cowboy Bebop the movie, which is kind of contentious in itself because despite its reputation as a classic in its own right, especially thanks to a couple of incredible sequences, and just representing a benchmark technical achievement in animation which would be endlessly ripped off for years to come, the movie also kind of shows the...
Wait, what's that? I guess I have to watch the movie to find out.
Ways where Bebop might not have continued working much longer, even if its core staff had continued to helm the project. On the one hand, Yutaka Nakamura's final fight animation in this film has essentially educated an entire generation of animators on how to draw amazing fistfights. But on the other hand, well, it's hard to say that this film is worse than the least interesting episodes of the TV show.
I really don't know much about this movie. I've seen, like, the villain. I know the villain's very popular. I can't remember his name, but if I, like, thought about it or wasn't streaming, I probably could get it. I've seen, like, is it, like, feathers or something? Or birds flying or something? He's, like, seeing things throughout the movie. I know the fight. I think there's a scene with a mop bucket. But in all the and I've seen shots of like the Bebop flying, and I have always like when I've seen it thought like, oh, it does kind of look off. Like it does look grander in a sense, which makes it really interesting. I'm very much talking myself into wanting to watch it right now. But me and Bacon might be rewatching the whole show, and then we can do it afterwards. I don't know. It does. I don't know. I really have to watch the movie obviously to have a better grasp on it. But it is like, it does look a little fancy. And it's like, how much is it just going to be like a retread of like the characters? It kind of is like a filler movie in a sense of like the characters won't be able to progress too much because this has to happen in between. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I just have to see it, I guess. Why don't you just watch the movie tonight? You're silly. Shut up, Miller. I don't want to. And I got Karanokio Kai to watch tonight. But me and Bacon might actually do this. This isn't I've been consuming this year, right? So it's not like usual where it's like, oh, Miller, I did open a One Piece chapter the other day. I was just like, oh, let me try and find which one I was on. And then I was like, because I always have the thought of like, you know, I've always thought one a day was just a terrible idea because it's like, obviously I want to do more than one a day. But then I'm like, if I'd done one a day since 2020, I would have caught up like a year ago. And then I was just like, oh, one a day, you know, it's like 5 minutes. I could do that right now while I'm procrastinating. But then I didn't do it. I did scroll through it because the chapter I opened was the I think one of the more recent ones I read where Luffy confronts the main whatever dude. Not NL, but the main warrior dude. But anyway, I closed it. The original anime with the manga adaptation starting shortly before the anime trend from back then is so common and strange. Yeah, well, Ava's obviously the other example I have. But it's just promotional, right? That's what because I was doing research on Pokemon. That's what happened with Pokemon. Now it wasn't before; it was literally the day after. But literally the day after Red and Green release in February of 1997, I think. Yeah, the very next day the first manga comes out. And like basically Pokemon's first wave of popularity is like all based on the fact that it was in CoroCoro magazine. That was like a very popular manga at the time. That's why to this day a lot of like Pokemon announcements. Well, actually, this stopped being a thing like 5 years ago, but sometimes they still do it. A lot of Pokemon announcements are in CoroCoro. Like manga, especially in like the 90s, seems to have been like a great promotional tool for like making things popular. So that's probably the idea. Like, oh, well, the manga comes out first before you see the real anime, the good-looking thing with motion in it, etc., etc. I don't think there's a lot of consideration. It's probably like a marketing decision more than a creative decision. The movie has sick animation. It's gonna make me sick. That's not good. It's very much a shonen filler movie where they introduce a new girl for the movie. Lol. I don't think I've ever seen a girl in this movie. That's interesting. That's very funny if she's at all a spike of interest. One day is more than enough for One Piece. One a day is more than enough for One Piece. This shit is dense. Wiper, that's the guy. We're both up to forest parts in One Piece, lol. Forest parts. What, are you still on a whole cake or something? Embarrassing.
Show.
I don't think there's forest in Wano, though. There probably is.
It's hard to say that it stands up to the best. It's got kind of a similar problem to the one that Mr. Plinkett has always interested animators on how to draw amazing fistfights. But on the other hand, while it's hard to say that this film is worse than the least interesting episodes of the TV show, it's hard to say that it stands up to the best. It's got kind of a similar problem to the one that Mr. Plinkett has always raised with the Star Trek films, in that it reveals just how much the series relies on the very particular format of its TV episodes to create its particular tone, and how easy it is for that tone to start breaking down when you deviate from the formula to try to make like an epic action movie. Cowboy Bebop the movie canonically takes place in between episodes 23 and 24 of the TV show. When you consider what happens in each of those classic Bebop episodes, the story of the film seems ridiculously out of place. Consider that the Cowboy Andy episode is...
That is almost certainly true. But is it very specifically, like, is there... I'm trying to remember. What happens at the end of 23? Is 23 the Cowboy Andy one? It might be. But, like, nothing really happens. It could be, like, after 2020, right? Because one of the last ones is Spike getting mind controlled, right, I think? But even then, I don't know if Spike in the next episode is, like, holding his head because of the effects of the mind control or whatever. Like, it probably being after Go Me is probably important, because Faye's probably a little bit sadder. Like, I guess it would depend. Is Faye, like, actively sad about how she's just about to find where she's from in the movie? In that case, it probably does fit there. I don't know.
Is almost entirely dedicated to comically dunking on a building bombing terrorist. And then the film presents a totally serious storyline about a terrorist bomber, with the only differences being how threatening the bad guy looks and the scale of what he's trying to do. It just feels a little too close to missing the joke. Like, the attempt to create serious dramatic stakes that aren't directly connected to our compassion for the characters is outright contrary to the identity of Cowboy Bebop as a show.
This is a very, like, Trixie point about how, like, oh, it's like, you did the joke about how bombers are lame in the thingy, but now you're doing a bombers being cool thing here. It's probably not the point of the bomber, like, I don't think that episode was about bombers being lame. I think it was just like, oh, they're ignoring, like, the would-be bad guy, and Spike is clashing with the would-be hero, and that's, like, funny. And then at the end he has, like, a reason, the bomber guy. Or maybe it was, like, a regret that they had. They were like, oh, we should have done a serious bomber episode, because that's actually way cooler than... whatever. There's, like, an old Trixie point that this is, like, exactly like. But I had it for a second, but because I started talking, I forgot it. Oh, it's like the, It's like the Ava point, where it's like, oh, Ava in episode 26 or whatever, when they do, like, the high school anime parody thing. It's, like, making fun of normal anime and being like, Evangelion's so cool because it's not like this. And then I remember Trixie being, like, mad that anime like that was still made afterwards because they all should have learned from Evangelion that we're past that in the meta now. Which is, like, it's obviously a reading of it. I don't know if that's, like, I don't think there's an Anno interview where he's like, yeah, I was shitting on fucking shitty anime when I did that. Whatever. It's just, like, an interpretation. It sort of is, it really, it's like any interpretive thing where it's just like, oh, if you get hung up on it, well, yeah, you're going to be mad about it. But, like, it's probably a very small percentage of people.
Stakes that aren't directly connected to our compassion for the characters is outright...
But Trixie does do the kind of, like, Colin Moriarty thing, where she'll... Like, her reading of it, she is so good at framing it as, like... It's not necessarily objective. It uses objective language, but it's, like... as, like, a legacy thing. And it's perfect at infesting your brain into being like, oh, maybe that does affect the legacy of, like... I don't know, when Colin Moriarty says, like, oh, Chrono Trigger is one of the great video games of all time, or whatever, and then he'll, like, compare it to, like, other things at the time, and then, like, and nothing has been done since this well or something. I can't reiterate how he does it exactly, but you just, by the end, you're like, oh my god, like, in the canon of video games, like, what he is telling me must be true. Like, this must be true in like, the perceived canon of video games. Like, I don't know, there's, like, an authority in the modality or something. It's very interesting. And it's very interesting that sort of, when I was younger, I really liked that type of... It's not really narrativizing, it's like canonizing. It's like, this is... Because it's not so grand and it's not so... like, scathing. It's just like a accidental fuck up that, like, ruins something from being, like, perfect. And that's, like, interesting. I don't know.
Right, contrary, like, the attempt to create serious dramatic stakes that aren't directly connected to our compassion for the characters is outright contrary to the identity of Cowboy Bebop as a show. Even though I have problems with the movie insofar as considering it less impactful or entertaining than at least half of the TV show, I don't have a problem with considering it as canon, or think that it breaks the characters. I hate that Faye's most memorable scene is getting her shirt cut open by the villain. I hate that the villain's design...
Epic!
is just a swarthier foil of Spike. I hate that I can't even remember the Bond girl's name, and I think a lot...
Oh my god, there's a girl?
...of the midsection of the movie is boring. But on the other hand, every ground-level action scene in the movie is one of the best ever, and it feels like the most complete realization of the show's universe, because we see Mars in so much detail and get to really soak it in. Some of the best music in the series shows up on the film's soundtrack, including an opening scene that's nearly as goated as the TV opening and doesn't get talked about enough. I don't know how long it would have taken the original Bebop team to start really disappointing the audience with continuations if they had tried making movies and OVAs, but I'm infinitely happier that they stopped making Bebop here, and that instead we got Wolf's Rain, the Animatrix, and all the short compilations that it inspired, Samurai Champloo, Ergo Proxy, Darker Than Black, and Space Dandy, and you can learn exactly how all of those descended from Bebop through this decade-old video I had tracing the show's lineage. That's before even getting to just stuff that...
Oh, I remember that title and thumbnail. I probably watched it at some point.
influenced by it or careers launched through it. Anyway, video I had tracing the show's lineage. That's before even getting to just stuff that's influenced by it or careers launched through it. Anyways, I'm not going to go too far into depth on the 1998 Cowboy Bebop PlayStation game, not only because, like you, I've never played it, but also because I found out it existed from a Gaming Brit video that opens with him assuring the audience that playing it would be
I did watch that Gaming Brit video thingy.
Played it, but also because I found out it existed from a Gaming Brit video that opens with him assuring the audience that playing it would be a huge mistake. I tried to watch some footage of the PS2 game, Tsuyoku no Serenade, but the tragically slow movement of its bare-bones beat-em-up combat made me want to barf. There seems to be some bad-looking new character, a bunch of generic shitty environments. I'm not surprised that, like the manga, these games have never really been discussed by fans of the anime series. Maybe Bandai learned their lesson early on that Bebop was hard to make tie-in material for, especially as the hype over the show started dying down in its home country and all the production staff had long moved on. Or maybe they were just satisfied that the DVD and later the Blu-ray persisted as worldwide bestsellers in the anime category, and at least a couple of people bought all the statues, posters, and knickknacks at conventions. Whatever the case, there was almost total silence from the Bebop brand, practically from the time of the Bandai Namco merger in 2006 until production started on the Netflix TV show in
I think that's a joke because that company changed its name or something.
2020. But keep in mind that in that 2006
2020.
until production started on the Netflix TV show in 2020. But keep in mind that in that time, the rumors of a Bebop live-action adaptation being in the works were always circling. In fact, I remember them as far back as when the show was first running on Adult Swim in 2002, and I was reading about it in magazines. For a long time, Keanu Reeves was supposedly going to be Spike, which would have sucked and flopped, and there were plenty of fan mock-ups trying to imagine what a live-action Bebop might look like. But I have to assume that every time someone tried starting to make it a thing,
What she just said about Keanu Reeves is also a Trixieism, where it's like, oh, the thing that everybody constantly says that would have been good sucks and would have flopped. And it's the second part that's like, it's obviously disputable. Like, how would you know if it would flop? It's probably a good idea to make it not flop. He's like a big actor and stuff. But to just say it authoritatively is so cool. It's like, great.
they
Fuck you.
realized somewhere along the way that it's a fucking terrible idea, until naturally the buck stopped at Netflix. Now, in case you missed the negative hype wave surrounding the adaptation, it took me 6 months to overcome the trauma enough to spend an hour and a half explaining how much worse the first episode was than the corresponding episode of the original show, which I did in this video. And that was the
Hey, I would watch that video.
best that the live-action show had to offer. I did promise
Episode 1 was the best, huh?
back then that I would break down the entire show, but the experience was a little too painful for the amount of views I got on that video, and it wasn't easy to get through copyright detection, so that's only happening if the first one gets a lot more views. Everybody thrashed the Bebop adaptation for a lot of great reasons, and I'm still a little haunted by just how shitty the second half got, but thankfully Netflix canned their plans for another season
Hey, episode 6, the great episode 6 was in the second half.
immediately after seeing the response. After that whole experience, I'm a lot more exhausted to see Cowboy Bebop exhumed again for any reason at all, and most especially lazy cash grab nonsense like the 2019 deck building card game or the 2020 official Cowboy Bebop COVID-19 relief charity fund song conceptualized by a guy who apparently had never seen the show, working in collaboration with Yoko Kanno.
I feel like I did watch that.
And yes, of course, the Overwatch 2 tie-in, which contributes DLC costumes for just 4 of the game's 40 heroes and blasts the opening notes of Tank at you every 2 fucking seconds on the menu screen. On the second day of the Bebop Overwatch crossover, I said to Bird, this is going to make me hate Tank. I already hated that the live-action show felt the need to use the exact same song, not even a different recording or segment of the song, as the cartoon did to try and ape its presentation, as if it were so essential to the Bebop identity that nothing else could have been done.
I mean, they did use different versions just in the show, right?
Even in spite of the brilliant use of Ask DNA in the film, but that's the thing. Divorced from the extremely particular tone of the anime, there's not really that much that defines Bebop in our cultural memories that could be replicated elsewhere. We all know what the characters look and sound like and how they act, and we remember some of the most memorable songs that have been referenced and sampled all over the world of music over the decades, but the individual stories, besides the vague backstories of the characters, are deliberately incidental, chosen for the textures they create within the medium of the story more than for their individual quality. Cowboy Bebop is a mood. You have to be totally immersed in that mood for it to work, and the second
You know, like the great Kyle Entertainment says, you know, it's just like a vibe, bro.
you pull any one sound out of its collage, it no longer resembles the bebop that is so defined by the collision of its many instruments. You might know the horn melody and the bass line from Tank, but if you just have to hear one or the other over and over again without the rest of the fucking song, it gets
This is problematic, this fucking pop-up shit, because I automatically put it at the end of all my videos on the secondary ENT channel. But having them at the end of an actual video, it happens sometimes. I'm like, oh, that's unfortunate, because it's like ruin the whole vibe of the video.
you might know the horn melody and the bass line from Tank, but if you just have to hear one or the other over and over again without the rest of the fucking song, it gets really fucking old really fucking quick. Anyway, let me know how you feel about the crumbling legacy of Cowboy Bebop in the comments, and as always, thanks again for watching, and never forget, anime forever.
She did it at the end. Isn't that funny? I mean, that was an interesting video. I like that video. Things to say, things to think about. The only thing they can do for the IP is to release a really artwork on literally every very funny. Honestly, in today's environment where nothing is allowed to die and even ancient properties keep getting revived and squeezed dry, I think it only speaks to Bebop's strengths that it is able to remain as one and done story in an actual conclusion despite efforts against it. My goodness. Italy Heckin theme Signerin. I don't know what that means. Fucking shut up. We still got some fucking battery left on this thing. It feels like stream's going on for a little while. The fact that the Bounty TV show is still running in the movie when you know it is why you know it takes place then, I think. That is true, because they do get cancelled, and then you see the guy in it in the last episode when Julie is at like the airport or whatever it is. It's like such a great little detail, and he's like he's got like a completely different voice, and it's he's looking after like his mother. What a great little detail. Right after Keanu was Shadow in a very profitable movie, Lamau. True, the great Shadow the Hedgehog. My voice to come back. Come back. I didn't even know Keanu Reeves was Shadow. Mother's Basement. We know Mother's Basement. What is Arcada like? Let's just listen to a few minutes.
So why am I here? That's a very good question, I think. Why am I doing this? I remember one point in time somebody asked me the question of why would I rant about things that I hate, especially if other people can find enjoyment in them. And
true, the copium everybody gets when they're a YouTuber when somebody says, "Why would you talk about the things you don't like?" You know, when they just want you to say that their thing is good. Bebop's most important lesson, like a video essay thingy.
Answer is because I want to, and some people like it. So we're going to be talking about Cowboy Bebop today. Surprise of all.
True. I want to, and some people like it.
All surprises. And did I enjoy it? Not really. The general consensus I've been hearing, and what I am fairly confident is true, is that if you are an existing fan of Cowboy Bebop, the anime, you're probably not going to like the new Netflix adaptation. The people who will like the new Netflix adaptation are the people that haven't watched the anime, that don't have anything to compare it to, and other people who may have watched the anime but honestly don't care as much. Maybe that's not the right way of describing it. This could be some like weird personal fanboy thing in my head being like, the only way you're not as pissed off as I am is because you aren't a real fan of Bebop. And I don't want to say that that's the case though, because like I have met people who are pretty big fans of Bebop, and they're like, it's okay. They're not shouting from the rooftops that it's an amazing adaptation, but they're like, it's all right. Maybe they're just jaded. And I feel like that's eventually where I'm going to get. I'm going to get to that point where it could have been a lot worse. And even now, I feel like I'm going to say things in this video where some people will be like, how are you not annoyed at that? And it'll be because, you know, I expected it. I expected what they did to Faye, 100%. And, you know, because I expected it, I feel like I'm almost okay with a lot of it. Not all of it, but some of it. So how do we start with this? Well, I feel like...
That was ominous. Because they made her an uwu girl, or because they made her a lesbian?
The best place to start is to say, hey, if you're actually wanting to watch this new Netflix Bebop as a fan of the original anime, how do you do that? And there's a very easy way of doing that, I think, and that is watch it in Japanese. The vast majority of the Japanese cast is brought back, and they dub over the entire show, and almost if you close your eyes, well, granted, if you close your eyes, you can't.
Is that true? That's like crazy. But it's not like I know the Japanese voices for these characters.
So maybe that's not the best piece of advice. But if you watch it that way, you can at least sort of feel like it's a lot more Bebop than what it actually is. Now, unfortunately, the only way you can do that is if you have access to Japanese Netflix. Because despite giving us access to like 5 different vocal languages in North America, Japanese is not one of them. But how do you access Japanese Netflix, you might say? Well, that's where we're going to bring in today's sponsor.
Genius, he is a genius,
for this video
guy.
Today, being the good people over other videos on the web, not the streaming service.
I'm stealing content and skipping ads.
Work for you for one reason or another.
My name's Elite RE.
No questions asked. Thank you very much, Surfshark. Go that way, because then it'll at least feel a lot more Bebop than whatever the heck this is. So I spent a very long chunk of this past weekend because I watched the majority of the show.
I'm kind of interested. Like, let me just click on this video for a second. What do you think this is? You think this is like, because that seemed kind of unscripted. Is this gonna be super scripted? Wait, they were the same channel, right? Yeah, okay. Oh, we got editing and stuff. Hey, I'm trying to watch in high quality here. 4K. Ridiculous. Oh, it's gonna look terrible in
Cowboy Bebop. A show.
It's gonna look terrible for you guys, but I just want to see it see if it actually looks really good in 4K.
That holds a mighty position in the
No, it's still kind of blurry. What the fuck?
Pantheon of anime, at least in the West. If you ever enter a conversation with someone,
true, it's more popular in the West. This does seem like it could be an interesting video.
Discussing the greatest anime of all time, I am sure that you will have many people with differing opinions. Greatest, at least in the West. If you ever enter a conversation with someone discussing the...
Oh, okay. I thought, like, we were presuming that it is the greatest anime of all time, not talking about bringing it up in a conversation about it being the greatest episode of all time. Anime of all time. Cowboy Bebop is ridiculously overhyped. This could be a funny video. Let me watch the first, like, 2 minutes of this one, too.
For avid anime viewers, the dread
Well, we
that
love The
looms
Great
in
Mother's Basement.
anticipation of every attempted Hollywood adaptation of a
The great Netflix Death Note movie. What a 6 out of 10 that was. What a great movie.
beloved classic comes as naturally as hunger or thirst. Like a child who fucked around with a stovetop and found out, the fear of being burned again is visceral, instinctive.
You know what Mother's Basement has? He has the appeal, or a toned down, much more PC, like, nerd-erotic narrative voice. Like, he's very mean, but it's usually about bad creative decisions that aren't too politically, like, inclined or anything like nerd-erotic or whatever. But it is very interesting. And he does have a very nagging, negative tone. And I think that comes from being from old YouTube a little bit. And I also think it comes from the fact that probably a bunch of his most popular video, like I'm sure this I was going to say the worst videos probably always do better than the best videos, but Dan to Dan is very popular. Thoughts over here. But the hottest trash one has even more. Don't worry, my narrative's still... I will not let the fucking evidence get in the way of my narrative. Look, this one's only 500. And I'm sure the top... No, it's going to be a what's in the OP, isn't it? The brilliance of Death Note potato chip scene, yes, really. Well, that's clever. Well, SAO is a terrible game, too, you know? We hate SAO. The great Trixie told me to. But yeah, I don't know, it's very funny. And I guess that is different to Trixie's sort of narrative voice of... Trixie is more dismissive than negative in a lot of her, like, scripted content. But I think it's in the same cause. It's like the thing that I don't like, I'm going to explain that it, like, not explain that it's bad, but I want to position the audience to think it's bad too. And Mother's Basement's sort of like, well, let's meme and be mean and make fun of it. Whereas Trixie's like, going to have a one-note dismissive line. I've definitely done obviously, everything I ever did was a Digibro ripoff, especially for the first few years. So I've definitely done the dismissive one. I feel like I've probably done the mean one, but if you watch that Vinland Saga video, it's probably more in the Trixie style. But anyway, that's just funny. I've never actually, like, thought about that too much about Mother's Basement, but it just, like, yeah, when you're a big studio and you fuck around and find out, it made me think of shitty nerd erotic, so that's very funny. For the love of God, just read Water 7 before you watch Netflix One Piece. I'm not going to watch Season 2. Oh my God, that is what's going to make me do it, right? I'm not going to watch Water 7 in the fucking live action show before the manga, right? Nobody said I would do anything of the sort. So I guess, right, they're probably going to skip ahead and do some of the GARP stuff from later. I know the spoilers, it'll be fine. At least I think that's what they do in this shitty Netflix show. Cowboy Bebop is overhyped. It's such a 7. I'd probably like it more now that I know it's episodic rather than... and I like original anime more now. Yeah, like, well, the first time I watched Cowboy Bebop, I didn't like it either. And then I rewatched it, like, 2 days later through, like, a reaction series. But it was one of the reaction series where they had this is 2018, bro. We had the link to whatever, probably Google Drive or something, and the whole episode was, like, edited in, and I just rewatched it that way, and I was like, oh, I'm, like, watching, like, 5 of these in a row, and this is, like, epic, and oh, what a time that was. That was when I was first, because literally the third YouTube video I ever made was scattered thoughts on Cowboy Bebop, and it was me saying that it was shit. And then I made a video, like, 2 days later saying updated thoughts on Cowboy Bebop, where I was like, oh, it's actually really good. I remember sitting in, like, the back veranda, because that's what I used to do back then. I scripted the whole first Hill of Swords video like that, too. God, that was, like, high school ended, like, a month before that. That was crazy. I was still in love with Black Lagoon Girl hopelessly. What a vibe it was back then. God. Anyway, I remember what, like, that's a very distinct... Because also... like, towards the end, no, this was, like, a G1 time, so this is, like, August. This is when I read Devilman. I don't know, down Nostalgia Road for anybody here. It's just, like, a bunch of different things I watched. That's so funny. Wait, no, because I think I only started Devilman then, because I didn't, like, I got, like, 2 volumes in, and then I finished it later. Because that would have been really funny if I read Devilman before I watched Cowboy Bebop. That would be a cool flex. But I don't think that's true. I think those old website posts are still on for the first time. God. Crazy. Anyway. No, it's because of Garp being in it. Legit adapts Water 7 scenes. I've probably seen them. But I'm not going to watch Season 2 before I read that part.
But even still, even in a weeby world cursed by Dragon Ball Evolution, Scarjost in the shell.
Dragon Ball Evolution's good, alright? We're gonna watch it soon, and we're gonna definitely say that it is, alright? When I was a kid, I liked it. That's all I'm gonna say about that. I was gonna quote one of the funny lines, but I can't remember it. I was gonna say Chi-Chi. But it's like, I forget how he says it.
No movie in Ba Sing Se, few phrases in history have ever inspired as much otaku consternation as Netflix Cowboy Bebop. A big part of that comes...
How long did it take him to get this video out? Is it still 2021? November. Okay.
From Netflix's reputation for messing this sort of thing up, which they've mostly brought upon themselves by slapping their originals branding on terrible Japanese-made shows and movies that they've merely licensed, like Mob Psycho 100 and FMA. Though the same logic...
God, there's an epic Mob Psycho 100 live action. I think I should watch that one. That'd be much better than that shitty show, I reckon.
Does put the Erased and Alice in Borderland dramas firmly in their win column. Until now, the only live-action anime thing they've actually had a hand in producing stateside was the Death Note movie, which definitely was not great, and
it was terrific.
Definitely wasn't Death Note, but at least...
Whoa! Why did he show Black L when he said that? That's crazy on God for real. Mother's Basement got something to say, coming out as a big Nick Fuentes fan. This is crazy.
Occasionally succeeded at being its own cheesy B-horror thing, which is arguably definitely wasn't Death Note, but at least tried and occasionally succeeded at being its own cheesy B-horror thing, which is arguably disrespectful to the source material, sure, but...
Not disrespectful to the source material, damn it!
Personally, I'd rather watch a goofy alt-universe fan film that people actually had fun making than a soulless carbon copy of a thing I've already seen. With that in mind, I've actually been feeling cautiously optimistic about...
not a carbon copy at all? Isn't it, like, criticized for changing a bunch of things and doing, like, the sequel movie plot and trying to cram it all in or something?
Netflix taking on things like Yu Yu Hakusho and even One Piece after I saw how hard they nailed that casting. At least compared to J.J. Abrams doing Your Name.
They nailed the One Piece casting. This was good news back in 2021.
It feels like a safer bet. But even still, every time I've thought about live-action Bebop or looked at the shot comparisons that they've been posting on Twitter, that palpable dread has loomed back up, which probably has more to do with a different reputation, the one that precedes Cowboy Bebop itself as one of the absolute unimpeachable greatest anime of all time, which I think it fully deserves. Nothing man-made is truly perfect, but
no, not movie scenes, don't show me, I gotta watch it later.
Cowboy Bebop comes as timelessly close to being a perfect anime as Who Framed Roger Rabbit does to a perfect movie and Super Metroid does to a perfect game. The more you understand about the technology...
What an interesting collection of perfects there.
...and artistic processes used to create anime back in 1998, the more you come to realize that what you're seeing on screen in Cowboy Bebop is a genuine miracle. Like, notice how little you notice the background CGI here compared to almost every anime that's been made since. And Bebop's opening has been one of the only two universally acceptable answers to what is the best anime OP for over 2 decades now.
Are we gonna play it?
I mean, guys, they made these motion graphics with their hands. Netflix editors working with computers in current year couldn't even get that little flicker on the first line that introduces Spike right. And on top of that, the original opening is absolutely jam-packed with hidden meaning that I've analyzed extensively in a sister piece to this video that I released last week. But I suppose I should talk about other good parts.
Oh my goodness, what's in an OP? We love the great series. The anime also isn't Death Note, to be honest. Oh yeah, because Miller's read the manga, I see. Why do people like Tank so much, even when the ED is better? I feel like people probably... Well, Tank's more iconic, but I don't think Tank is legitimately, like, #1 on anybody's, like, favorite anime opening list, but Real Folk Blues definitely is on a bunch of people's. But, you know, Tank didn't even make my top 50. Real Folk Blues was, like, number 11 or something.
parts of Cowboy Bebop that aren't just an excuse to plug my other content. Like how every episode consistently features hand-drawn and painted action and character animation with a level of detail, fluidity, and expressive musical energy that other anime, even modern big-budget digital ones, condition you to expect a few times a season at best. Half of Deku's fights aren't nearly as technically impressive as most shots of Spike and Faye just fiddling around with the interfaces in their cockpits. And speaking of...
I hate shitty My Hero Academia. It fucking sucks. This is like Mother's Basement formula, and I think it actually is really good, and it is really good for narrativizing/canonizing, my two favorite words this stream apparently. Because this first 5 minutes or 8 minutes is just going to be context. It's going to be like, Netflix adaptations usually bad, live action adaptations usually bad. I know all of them, let me show footage of all of them and briefly touch on all of them. Let me talk about why they would be bad, because Cowboy Bebop looks so good. It's great little because what's not going to happen is this isn't going to be brought up again in the episode things too much. A more structured video essay would introduce more of a central thesis. But Mother's Basement really doesn't do that, I don't think. I think it's just going to be breaking down episode by episode why certain things are funny, maybe. Oh no, it looks like we're talking about Vicious first, so maybe we're not doing it episode by episode.
Those interfaces, they speak to an obsession with technically accurate, forward-thinking, humanistic world-building that permeates the entire show. Cowboy Bebop's production...
So right now we're just doing what's good about Cowboy Bebop.
Design team didn't just think about how things in this world would work, they thought about how they'd break, be rebuilt, customized, and worn in by the people using them. And it's not just the technology. Look at the background art in any location any character calls home, be it a bar, a tiny capsule hotel, or a trucker's space cab, and you'll spy countless specific details speaking to the occupants' personalities. Cowboy Bebop builds an entire universe out of disparate film and music genres, with each episode adopting a different style to suit its subject matter and give each of the people and places the Bebop crew visits in their adventures an incredibly distinct identity.
I didn't even recognize that last shot. These ones, I recognize these guys. Maybe I recognize this cat, but I don't know which episode it's from. Unless, actually, it's just from the episode where Faye's going to be in this diner. I do remember this stuff, because she does get the bounty. Oh, no, it's the wrong guy. I think this is when Hard Luck will...
The Bebop crew visits in their adventures an incredible...
Because it kind of looks the same.
Incredibly distinct identity. Yet, at the same time, countless subtle world-building and character-developing threads woven throughout these episodes, along with a persistent undercurrent of black comedy, allow that patchwork setting to cohere into a surprisingly consistent and...
What does black comedy mean? Does it just mean dark comedy? It doesn't mean black people comedy, chat, because The Sopranos is a black comedy. Hey, I'm trying to look up a definition here. Black comedy, also known as black humor. Bleak comedy, dark humor, gallows humor, or morbid humor is a type of comedy that makes light of bad things. Okay, so it is just dark sense of humor.
Brawling whole. Every episode of Cowboy Bebop is wildly different, yet every episode is unmistakably Cowboy Bebop. The show's been accused by some detractors of merely parroting the stylistic overtures of the many films and TV shows from which it draws inspiration and to which it pays homage, but the truth is, it remixes those things, like a master musician taking phrases and hooks from other artists in other genres and incorporating the texture of their musical ideas into a new sequence that says something wholly fresh and original. Space jazz. Some critics and contrarians have said Cowboy Bebop's cast is poorly written because they barely grow or change over the course of their adventures and
True, we love character development.
Repeat the same mistakes from episode to episode. I say that's the point. Spike Spiegel is doomed to die because he is fundamentally incapable of accepting
the point doesn't mean it's a good point.
Loss and refuses to learn the lesson of where that leads, no matter how many times it catches up to a bounty he was...
I also don't think this is true, because Miller does this a lot. Though not even in a bad way, because I don't think the point is that Spike shouldn't have died. I don't think the point is Spike dying is bad and what an idiot for dying. I think the point is oh, sometimes you do just want to die now, and it's about the vibe. People do this sometimes with The Sopranos a lot, where they'll be oh, and Tony doing a bad thing here is us waving our finger and saying, Tony bad, see, mafia bad. But it's not really about that. There isn't really a moralizing element. And I think when we think about themes a lot, especially the way it's sort of developed in this YouTube space, is a lot of moralizing. Now, this comes from two places. For Miller, it comes from Krastorf videos, because Krastorf likes to do this with shonen stuff, which is a much more sympathetic angle than the other one, which is just it comes from lefty, RedTube videos. Because... obviously, the Krastorf movement or whatever, and all of his friends and what they kind of do is counteract like bad things that have just been said about shonen stuff a lot of the time. It is so interesting that like Naruto and what I assume One Piece and what I assume Bleach from all these Craftwork videos is so much obviously more intentionally thematically better thought out than things like any like deep anime or whatever. Like Naruto iterates on its theme so much throughout its whole story that it's like it's one of like the most impressive things I've ever seen in like a piece of media. Whereas Cowboy Bebop is just like, what if being sad was the point? And it's like, oh, it's a simple idea. I think it's a more resonant idea than like the Naruto, because Naruto has like wider themes about like war being bad and how you should be better to people or whatever. It's very interesting because then like sort of the Sopranos and Mad Men are sort of anti-theme in a way where it's like Mad Men has like happy resolution, but the happy resolution is like portrayed as like a non-thematic resolution. Like Don Draper just goes back to doing what he like. The happy ending is he thinks about a good idea, so he can go back to being an advertising, which means he'll go back to his like debaucherous lifestyle. And it's like, oh, this wasn't like a retreat for him to like make personal progress because it's the end of the show and that's what we have to do. This was just he calmed down so he could be better at his job after being bad at it for a few episodes. And it's like, oh, genius. Like there is no theme. Is sort of the because there's no theme to life. Life isn't a story type thing. But what did Mother just say here that
I say that's the point. Spike Spiegel is doomed to
Oh, this like moralizing and this like looking down on Spike because he didn't get over it is like so. It's like that's not the point. The point is that you don't get over it and like self-aware enough as the creator of this show to understand that people don't get over it. Let's stop pretending type thing. I don't think it's just like a sad ending and it's doing like the shonen thing of like reinforcing like a good theme about how the story should be teaching you how to be good or whatever. But anyway, that's the second battery warning. We got a kiss and I'll read Miller's messages and then I'll get the fuck out of here. I don't know if I'll watch these off stream. I'm like motivated now to keep watching them, but you know me, I probably won't. I don't think we'll do another stream unless the people really want it while we're watching these Cowboy Bebop videos. We might do watching those other older videos that I kind of want to do. We'll probably do some old Trixie videos. I think I might do the Best Guy Ever Gurren Lagann videos again. We'll find an Endless Jess one. Maybe the God of War Endless Jess one. We'll watch that Stimpy Land review thing. I'll probably find a Geek Evolution one, and these will be like my old videos that I want to rewatch. I don't know what I think of Spike dying. Too busy thinking of how cool it is that Real Folk Blues plays in an action scene. That is cool. The song afterwards is even cooler, though. Long things are just better than short things, that's all. I generally agree, I think. The way you can break One Piece down into the theme of the fight playing into the theme of the arc, which plays into the theme of the series, is so satisfying. That is true. And that is the shonen thing about how the theme like layers in on itself in like a million ways. And how like thought out that has to be, and how it's like so much more obviously thought out too is also like very interesting. Whereas a lot of like, we don't have time for this. A lot of like TV show like theming, like big theme videos you'll see on YouTube is a lot of just implication and being like, well, they're referencing this thing and this is this philosophical concept. When for shonen shit, you don't need to do that at all. It's just all like in the text and is all very believable. Just read One Piece now. I don't know. Oh, fucking One Piece, you know. No shot you want to watch those videos again before watching Gurren Lagann. Well, I don't give a fuck about Gurren Lagann. I give a fuck about YouTube videos. And I don't really have any intention. Like, Gurren Lagann is not on the agenda at all. Kill la Kill kind of is. Gurren Lagann is not. Oh,